Recap of the 2021 USDGC and Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships coming right up in just a moment. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day number 4, as in our final recap of the 2021 USDGC, along with the 2021 Throw Pink Women's Disc Golf Championships. So glad you guys could join me. Buckle up. It's going to be a night. In all seriousness, hope everyone is doing well. Here it is on Saturday night. As always, I need to take the first moment or two just to get a little help and assistance from you guys. I want to double check that the audio is in fact correct and all good to go. I'm going to add my nifty graphic. Man, that's some next level stuff. But seriously, I do want to make sure that everything is good to go. Then maybe I can put it out on the Instagrams and the Twitters and some of that other stuff that some other people could possibly join here. Got to do a few clicks over on the YouTubes. Telling you, sometimes this interneting can be difficult. So I've got that all taken care of. Thank you for your patience. And let me double check here that I'm fully up and running. And it sounds like, as I read a few of you, Adam says, good evening. Joe, you weren't first tonight. Joe PG, you were second in the comments. Man, update your notifications, man. Like, how could you be second in commenting tonight? Billy Ashton's out there saying it sounds good. Billy coming in from Minnesota, I'm assuming. Not to dox you or anything there, Billy, but I hope you are doing well. So if you guys could like, share, all that fun stuff, go ahead. The YouTubers will tell you you're supposed to smash smash the like button, destroy it, obliterate it, whatever you want to do. But all of that stuff would be great. I'm going to start tonight, as always, with a couple of disclaimers, maybe one or two more than normal. First and foremost, this is a recap I'm doing on my own volition, something I just kind of randomly, but yet systematically have decided to do throughout this entire week. At any and all points, I am representing only myself as the disc golf guy. Of course, I work with the likes of the Disc Golf Network, Disc Golf Pro Tour, the PDGA, and a number of other vendors and manufacturers. However, when doing anything tonight, I am exclusively speaking on my own behalf. So I just want to make that crystal clear. I know that doesn't make me completely unaccountable for anything and everything, but I do want to make sure that it is very well known. I am not wearing any hat of any given entity. The only pathetic shout out or call outs that I'm going to beg for now is for my friends over at Founders in Grand Rapids, Michigan. They make this delightful beverage called Backwoods Bastard. Earplugs. They make this incredible Backwoods Bastard beverage, which is a double barrel aged Scotch ale. I'm not going to say I love it, but I think I love it. Did I mention I do not represent anyone else. So Adam asks if I'm wearing pants, Adam. There's only one way to know. We'll keep rolling. So as always, my plan tonight will be to break down a few things that we saw today out on the course. Of naturally, there's some pretty serious storylines that took place. I'd like to do all of that, talk about what we saw there, and then I'd like to go ahead and make sure that I really work hard here to answer most of the questions, comments, concerns, considerations, things that are out there on the YouTube chat board. So Little known secret, or maybe should be more advertised. If you attach a super chat to any of the comments, they pop up. They're usually in some bolded colors, and you're all but guaranteed to get it recognized and or called out or answered when you do so. Just throwing that out there that it does work. Okay. Paul says, next time you see me at Attorney, you're going to buy me some. These are difficult to find because they're only distributed in certain states for starters. And secondly, they are somewhat of a seasonal beverage, but 'tis the season. Yeah. Okay. Do you shower after each recap? Do you mean before I do the recap? I'm not going to get into that. All right. One other quick disclaimer I want to throw out there. Hey, Mo, thanks. My hotel room. You haven't been here for the last few nights then, where I've talked about my friends over here at the Cambria. They are on the upper level of the mid-grade hotel chain that I frequently use. Choice Hotels, not always Choice, and Cambria is on now their mid to upper level of the low to mid-grade hotel chain that they are. I'm sure there's a good analogy in there somewhere. About yeah, I don't know. I'll have to think about that. I'm sure you guys can come up with one. Okay. But it is relatively new, and for that I do love it. And the internet here is 100 by 100, and if you're an internet junkie, you realize how insanely awesome that is. All right, 100 by 100 up and downloads. So let's get into it. One thing I do want to give honestly a disclaimer to, now that I'm rambling, which there'll be a lot of that tonight. I don't have answers and all the details to the few people that had challenges with the DGN app today. I know that's going to be a hot topic. I know people have brought it up, and I know people are sending inquiries and doing all of those things. And if anything comes about that I can share, and it comes about here, I will gladly share it with you. But as of right now, there's nothing that I know in any official capacity other than I know that some of the subscriber base had some challenges with the app. I think that's pretty much out there. And that's about all that I know as of this moment. So unfortunately, I'm not your your go-to solution or IT or tech support when it comes to anything of that nature here yet at this point tonight. If I do learn anything else, again, I'll make sure to share it with you. I'm also going to share what's going on right now out on Twitter and just let everybody know that we're also doing some things here. Excuse me, on the Twitters. And why it is taking so long. Sorry about that. So I need a staff, a crew, whole team. I don't know. I don't have all of that when I'm here. So let's start out, folks, with the action over at the Throw Pink Women's Championships. I feel like if I click on this, I have it for you. A lot of conversation yesterday, of course, took place about whether we would likely see or who we would see as taking it down. Plenty of you were pulling for Kona Panis. Some also thought Haley King was right there in the mix. Of course she was. Missy Gannon, of course, in the mix as well. And then Valerie Mandujano in the mix. Everyone in the mix made it so incredibly exciting to roll into today. And when it was all said and done, well, we see out on top, taking down her largest paycheck to date of $6,000. That goes to none other than New York's own Missy Gannon. And for all things, I guess you got to say it's somewhat of a even keel round when it was all said and done. I mean, she shot even, but just not a lot of craziness on her card. The birdie bogey on 2-3, a birdie on 7, which is one that you sometimes feel like you must get. 14-15, she washed out. And then on 17A, she maybe most importantly just limited herself to the bogey, canning a great putt, doing some work there, but limiting herself to the bogey. And with that, she all but put it away. She did have a little work to do on 18 to secure it, but getting through 17 with the bogey certainly a little redemption for how she struggled there. And I go here and I click on a few things and I can show you guys. Yesterday, she did take the par. She was super happy about that. But in round 2, she took the triple bogey. And in round 1, she took a triple bogey with 2 OBs. So there's so much to be said about making those improvements late in the round and then knowing that if naturally 16, 17, and 18, those will be closing out your tournament. So to have that correction and that adjustment in round 3 has to give you a little bit more confidence moving into round 4. And today, when she really needed it, as she was so close with Valerie, she walked away with just the single bogey. She found the OB and then had the bogey. And 18, it was just a game of pitch and putt all the way up the fairway to then walk it in. She was able to lay up under the basket to walk away with the par on the final hole, which she knew at that point was good enough. And I think her stat only maybe went down because she actually did layup. I think going into that, she was at 80 something, maybe 89 or 90% for her C1X putting. So it's funny how that stat actually gets adjusted or fixed. I mean, technically she had to putt and she had to do it from inside the circle to lay up. So her number went down. So it's a little deceptive, but 75%. Yesterday was 89%. The day before was 90%. And even the day before that, C1X putting was 75%. It's, call it predictable, call it dependable, call it what you want. But Missy Gannon certainly always relying on that putter to do some of the work for her out there. So congratulations to her. 2-stroke lead. Kona Panis made a charge today. I think we saw 5 under, or correction, Paige had the hot round to open, but everything after that, after round 1, were 4s and 5s were kind of the hot round. Well, today, Kona Panis had a 3 under as the second hottest round, only to be outdone by call her Saturday or Sunday hokum at this point. Final round hokum. I feel like so much emphasis that we've put on Chris Dickerson over the last few years about Chris Dickerson kind of being this guy who shows up on Sunday or shows up on the final round and then somehow shoots himself into a position to either win the tournament or make this really great late charge. That defines Sarah Hokum for the last 3, 4, 5 events, regular stroke play events, where she's been lingering, she's been playing well. And then the last day, she's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I've got this. I've got it all figured out. And I'm just going to show up and, really make somebody fight for it. You saw the battle she had with Haley King back at GMC. We saw what she did in applying that pressure late with Haley King at the MCO a few weeks ago. It's been something that she's got going on. And it's been really kind of cool to see because you don't think of Sarah Hokum as a flashy player. And I think she would even agree with that. But the fact that she's been so consistent and making so few mistakes and not giving strokes back to the field, I think that's been something that's been of note lately for her. I don't know where that comes from. I don't know if she knows where that comes from or if she even cares, but she's been doing it. So she made her charge today, and then with that finds herself in this overall in this tie for third place along with Haley King, and really just 3 strokes off the pace. I mean, of course she didn't win, and you play all the holes for this reason. But if you think about the duration of 72 holes on this course, playing 7, 8, 9,000 feet, and then you think about how the entire tournament for her and how close it was in the FPO in this event, 1 or 2 strokes we saw tossed around like nothing. And the fact that she still made the run she did and made it as competitive. And then, contrast that with what we see by Haley King, had a very slow start out there today and then ended up taking a double bogey and a triple bogey and then an incredibly strong finish, picking up 4 birdies in the last 7 holes. So That's why they call it golf. You got to play them all, right? And Valerie, who was really in the mix, in the hunt, lingering, hanging, going back and forth, all those different things. And then ultimately, by the time when she got to 17, it wasn't enough. And Valerie took the triple bogey to Missy's single bogey. So there was a 2-stroke advantage there going into the final hole. She did come back and get the birdie on the final hole, but on 17, it kind of unfortunately closed the door. The only thing that could have happened for any of the other women, obviously, is that Missy, really faltered on 18, but she did nothing of the sort. In fact, she did exactly what she needed to do to win. So congratulations, Missy Gannon. You see a couple 38 footers in there, a number of 27 footers. Missy Gannon just, you're not likely going to out putt her. And so you have to outplay her in other ways, or you have to just hope somehow that she makes a mistake. But if she does, it's not going to be on the green all too often. Take a look quickly at Konopanis and her charge today. I mean, quiet, but very effective. Nothing too flashy. You don't see anything from Circle 2. She had just the 1 OB, which clearly is advantageous compared to what Missy had in 3 OBs. Sarah Holcomb had just the 1 OB on hole number 13. So you see that's how she was getting done. She did. Wow, I was going to say she did have. Okay, so she had a 49-footer today, and this is going to be really scary. Did she have a 49-footer on hole 5 yesterday? Dun, dun, dun. Let's take a look. Something tells me she had a 49-footer on 6 yesterday. Gosh, I'm going to take away my disc golf guy title because I can't keep any facts straight. But nonetheless, Sarah Holcomb, solid day out there. Haley not able to close out as strong. I mean, a couple of bigger blemishes, and you negate a few of those. I mean, again, just 3 off the pace. You look at hole 8, she lost 2 to Missy there. She lost 3 to Missy on 10. There's a 5-stroke difference between her and Missy just on those 2 holes. Owen Scoggins, hanging tough. I'm going to guess she had some good putts. Holy OBs. She had 7 OBs on the day to still only finish +2. Macy Valadiaz, we see her continuing to come up through the ranks and perform well, beating a number of veterans. And then, fair or not, a huge storyline. Paige Pierce, we saw the struggles she had, one of her worst rounds ever, so on and so forth, or since 2011. And then she came back and she still had some struggles today with 6 out of bounds, including 2 on 6 and 2 on 11. But yet she still shot even on the day and still racked up a good number of birdies. What is it? 2, 4, 6, 7 birdies out there. So, we watched her move up 7 paces or places, 7 spaces today. Into a tie for 10th. Still, not a performance that we know is of Paige Pierce caliber. And just for giggles, since we had such a gorgeous day today, I'm going to take a look at the scores in terms of what we saw today versus round 1. Round 1 was the exact same layout, so that's why I feel like it's a little more easy to compare. Today saw average score of +6.59. Compare that to opening day, average score of 7.46. So just about almost a stroke improved from day 1 to day 4. But I don't know. That's for some of you stat people out there that really get excited about that stuff. So that's what we saw. I'm not sure that there's a lot of other stuff on that side. I mean, to me, I think about Missy and the year she had. I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, she had $6,000 or $8,000 in winnings. Must have been 2 years ago. Last year, $11,000 in winnings, I think is what I saw earlier. I apologize. I'm going to take another couple clicks for you guys. in 2019, let's go back to there. 2019, she had $7,800 in winnings. 2020, COVID year, but yet Disc Golf Pro Tour continues to flourish. $11,300. So it goes from 73 to 11.3. All right. 2021, with at least one big paycheck still potentially on the line, she is up to $31,000. And that does not, holy cow, that does not include the $6,000 from today. So she's up to $37,000. And I'm not going to go on a rant like I did the last few nights about just how much disc golf has grown and how 37,000 was setting records 6 or 8 or 10 years ago. And now we're finding Missy Gannon on the FPO side, which just generally has a lot less money to win due to a lot less players primarily. $37,000 plus she's got sponsor bonus and all the other things that aren't on the books. Just incredible, and you couldn't be happier. I mean, I'm gonna say this differently. I don't know how you're not a Missy fan. I don't know what you could dislike about her and her demeanor and her tone and her game. She's her smile and how she smiles so often is what's incredible. And I think there's something to be learned for everybody about carrying that positive energy no matter what. And she's just like one of those people who, whether she's 10 up or 10 under, you wouldn't really know by her tone or her actions out on the course. So congratulations to Missy. She's got, as of now, 26 tournaments. Well, let's subtract one for the pro putting contest. I don't think that 25 like regular tournaments, so to speak, of some kind. And the fact that she's sitting around 37,000, she's already made it into the semifinals probably of the Pro Tour. So she's going to eclipse $40,000 playing disc golf this year. Maybe not disc golf rich, or maybe that is exactly disc golf rich, but I got to say that is a huge step in the right direction. And maybe almost as equally as impressive or more that's going to be after 3 wins. That's $4,000 in Des Moines, $1,250 at a Silver Series event, $5,000 for second place at the match play, and $6,000 here. So it's not because she racked up win after win after win. She just played very, very solid and consistent, found herself in the top 11 like 24 out of 26 times or whatever. So very, very impressive. Congratulations to Missy Gannon. Just can't say enough about her. And a hard-fought victory. Kona chasing, Sarah Hokum chasing, Valerie chasing. So it's not like she just got to run away with it today. She had to do some work out there, and it was awesome to see. So congratulations to her. All right. Spoiler alerts. If you somehow don't know where we are on the USDGC MPO side, now's the time to turn it off. But what I'm going to touch on, moving into, of course, we're talking about playoffs and the USDGC, and we're talking about what we saw over there. I apologize. Let me get to the numbers. And we are going to backtrack. Head over to our friends at UDisc. And sure enough, USDGC, dun, 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 your winner was all said and done. In dramatic fashion, of course, Paul McBeth. McBeth with a solid start, really cooled off in the middle, while others continued to charge. The Kyle Kleins, Ricky Wysocki, Joel Freeman, so on and so forth, kind of kept things going in that somewhat early midsection. And Paul slowed down. There was no doubt about it. I mean, the pressures were probably a little different because he did have an advantage coming into the round. And then not only did he slow down, he ran into a few speed bumps on top of it, and I don't know, fishtailed out a little. 9, 11, and 12, he finds out of bounds. And you see two of those. Uh, 9 turned into the bogey. 11, he still managed to get the par. And 12, he took the double bogey and certainly made things incredibly tight. Meanwhile, Ricky Wysocki was starting out pretty hot, getting 7 out of the first 8. Also, Joel Freeman, I mentioned, started out pretty hot. Nicola Castro, much earlier, had performed very well. Eagle, taking a lot of wind out of his sails right on the very first hole by missing the Mando. And so Eagle struggled, giving himself a little room. Martin Hendel, who we saw on the lead card, of course, got 1 and 2, but then quickly gave it back, and it didn't seem like he was threatening nearly as much. So that's what we saw there. But when it was all said and done, it really felt like it. Well, I can't even say that. Chris Dickerson also started out very slowly and didn't feel like he was getting anything going whatsoever. And at the end of the day, Chris Dickerson, unfortunately for him, finishes with the even, loses a significant amount of ground. And I remember at one point we had a 3-way tie. I believe it was at 24 under par is when we saw the 3-way tie taking place, and Wysocki and Gibson and Klein all making their run. I think Freeman was in on that, actually. And it's hard to keep everybody straight for a moment. And you had Kyle, who was on the chase card, but yet, a full 2 cards ahead of the rest of the group, or the rest of the lead card, I should say, and Ricky right there as well. And then Ricky, found his troubles on 15. It was a day where you just kept thinking, as soon as you thought you knew what was going to happen, Winthrop said, no, you don't. You really don't know what's going to happen. And I'm going to throw this curveball at you. So I don't know if there's a lot you can take, but I do find it really interesting for closing out this tournament. You look at Macbeth and Klein, both pick up 2 birdies in the last 5 holes, and they're both different holes. Macbeth getting it on 14 and 17, whereas Klein picked him up on 15 and 16. Nothing more than interesting. I mean, you can't draw anything from it. They weren't playing together. I find that really interesting about who's closing when and where. Kyle put a really good move on his original tee shot, put a pretty good shot on his second one on 18, and I'm standing next to his father, who had come down for the event. He drove down with Kyle's brother. Kyle's brother has never been to a big-time tournament before. I believe it's his older brother, has never been to a big tournament before. They drove down, made the 12-hour trip down here. And I had said to his dad as Kyle was lining up, I said, is he going to run this? He's like, I don't know. And apparently there was a conversation, and Cynthia, Kyle's girlfriend, Cynthia Ricciotti, had made a comment about he decided he was going to run it. He didn't want to lay it up and have that regret later. And talk about the heart of a champion and or a young kid, because you could say the exact opposite. You could say, well, I'm going to lay it up. I don't want to have the regret later that I ran for it, that I ran it, missed it, and gave away the event on the last hole. But Kyle did the exact opposite. He ran it, and then he had the absolute best case scenario with a miss. He did miss a little low, so you could say, well, he didn't give it a real good chance to go in, even though he was putting above the basket. So I don't think that's as fair of a statement. He did miss, but it did hit the basket, and it sat right there. He had no tester. He had no comebacker. He could just dunk it in from there, and he walked away with a par. You got to give the kid a lot of heart, and there's just a lot of credit for the heart he had to say, hey, I want to try and pick up another stroke here. So then you fast forward. So Kyle takes the par, absolutely stellar performance and a solid run and great play. And then it sounds like, and I didn't find this out till a little later myself, that it seemed as if UDisc at one point, I guess, had him listed for a little bit as a bogey, and then it got back to being listed as a par. And we've come to heavily rely on UDisc and on the live board that's out on the course, and we've come to rely on those things. And a lot of people, the criticism could immediately be, well, you should know what the scores are at all times. We'll say for Paul Macbeth's sake, you should always know what the scores are at all times, and you should never depend on the unofficial or the UDisc, which I think can be true if the players in your group. You can keep a paper scorecard, or they need to, but that's within your group. You can know for sure what's going on. You can say, oh, hey, I see that Martin is at such and such, or I see that Drew is at such and such. He can make those assessments, and then he could never blame anyone else for a possible miscalculation except for himself. But if you're going to rely on UDisc and there's the chance even momentarily that it's incorrect, that has bigger implications. And I'm going to go ahead and say, I feel like we had a similar conversation a few weeks ago at the Music City Open, where Sarah Hokum, at one point, I felt like had a certain deficit to Haley King, and she wanted to play accordingly and possibly force her way or play safe or play aggressive, whatever the case is. She wants to do those things. And then I feel like there was a switch in the scoring that took place as she was, approaching her lie or moving up 18. And that's where it can be just so dangerous as to if the scorekeeping is 100% correct or not. And this isn't to, throw shade or place any blame anywhere else with the scorekeeping or signals or anything of that nature. But those are legitimate concerns. I mean, just think if you're laying up a putt that you later found out you needed to make to go into a playoff, or you're making decisions based on that. And I don't know if there's a perfect solution when players are not on your card and you have no way to validate or verify what their scores are. I mean, again, what, 99 point some percent, it's going to be accurate, but in the one or two times it may not be. I don't know what the solution is, and maybe you guys have a clever solution out there. I'm not sure what it is, if so, but nonetheless, it was sorted out. Paul Macbeth essentially knew what he needed after seeing what Kyle had done. He knew what he needed or what could happen as he played out hole number 18, and then he was faced with another really interesting decision about making the run for the birdie or not. And to me, I initially thought, oh yeah, he's, there's no way you want to risk missing that and then possibly, go OB. And then I thought, no, Paul's kind of an all or nothing kind of guy. He's not exactly one that wants to keep things going if he doesn't need to. And obviously puts a solid run on his putt. It stays relatively close, doesn't do anything crazy to get up and run. And he makes his additional putt, and then from there takes it into the playoff. Insane. The thought that Ricky was in that conversation, Drew Gibson was in that conversation, Chris Dickerson fell out of that conversation a little bit earlier in the day, but there's just all these Joel Freeman in that conversation. We think about all of those things, and then to find out how it comes down to it with it being Paul and Kyle, and then the plan, specifically at USDGC, they do 1, 17, and 18. Those are the playoff holes, at least in this configuration. That's noted before the event even starts. 1, 17, and 18 are in fact the playoff holes. We're move over to hole 1. Not much time. Here's what I do think is something that we're going to see, and this was talked about at Music City, and yeah, it was, and it's going to be talked about and maybe officially formalized more so for 2022. The standard rules for what we've commonly seen in disc golf is during a playoff situation, the player with the better last round goes first. They have the honors, so to speak. So in this case, Kyle Klein would have been going first. And that's the way that it's pretty much been laid out for I don't know how many years. And then at one point, I thought I heard Paul, and I wasn't right there, but I thought I heard Paul say that they're going to flip a coin, or there was a reference to flipping a coin, because the new rule moving forward, I believe, is that instead of going by quote unquote hot round, moving forward, they want to flip a coin, and then they'll rotate. Yeah, they'll rotate honors from that point forward. So if they were to push, if Paul were to tee off on 1, if it were to push and they went to hole 2, even though they push, Kyle would then tee off. That's what I believe is going to be the new standard moving forward. And I think there was just a questioning as to whether or not that was implemented already, or if that's something we're going to see in 2022. So nonetheless, Kyle, and again, I don't know if it was by the old rules that are still in place, or if they did flip a coin. I honestly did not see that part, or I cannot confirm one way or another. But Kyle went first. Spoiler alerts here. Kyle went first, clearly made the Mando. It went off into the left, found the bushes and the trees on that left-hand side. It still gave him a little bit of a window. And then we saw Paul pipe it right down the middle, early out of his hands. Plenty of people were yelling for it to go in, to possibly ring it up, which would be hilarious considering the conversation we just had here last night about whether or not ace pools count during playoff holes. But that's another story. Rewind to last night if you care, and have that conversation. But that's ultimately, he goes deep of the pin, and Kyle had a little bit of an obstructed look, awkward stance, downhill with some obstruction. And something in me, and I'll admit totally to being incorrect here, something in me thought, oh, he's going to can this. This is going to continue, or he's going to at least put the pressure on Paul. And he ultimately did not. That leaves Paul McBeth with 22, 25 feet. I guess I'd have to go back. I was kind of in the moment of thinking about, okay, if he makes this, then I got to make sure I'm plugged into the correct camera to do an interview, and all the things that are going through my head at that point. And pretty much right in the heart of the chains, Paul McBeth makes the putt. You see a lot of emotion, understandably, but you see a very, very aggressive howl by McBeth, and he has claimed his 3rd USDGC title. He's lost it on a playoff, and now he's won it on a playoff, and just really, really incredible to see it unfold. And I can't imagine the emotions. He won it in 2015. That was part of the Grand Slam year where you literally couldn't pay him to lose. And then he comes back in this year, or 2018, of course, he takes it down. And then he comes back here this year and takes it down again. And for what many have claimed is, I myself would say it's been a relatively quiet Paul McBeth year, in the sense that he hasn't dominated. He hasn't played to the level we've seen him play at before, and he hasn't walked away with the titles. And he even, kind of joked in the interview that, he was just 200 or so feet away from claiming this year's only other major. And James Conrad, I think about the wording of this, and I hate to use the word steal, but it almost, some would say that James Conrad all but stole it out from under him. Now, Conrad still had to outperform him on 16. And there was nothing odd or weird or fluky or anything about that, or unique or crazy. He clearly birdied the hole and Paul didn't. But what felt like to probably millions of people is that Paul McBeth had, worlds locked up, at least as they were moving down hole 18. And by all statistical accounts, he really did. And James Conrad said, Yeah, cool. Hold my shampoo. I've got news for you, Macbeth. You're not getting your sixth. So, uh, not a bad year if you think about your major finishes. You think about tying and ultimately losing, but tying for first at Worlds and then winning the only other major of the year. No one else can match those averages of a 1.5 finish on the majors for the year. So it's not going to put him in player of the year contention, I don't believe. He clearly didn't win the national tour point series, for instance. But nonetheless, if you show up and you perform on the largest stage at the biggest events, it's hard to ignore that. I mean, you guys could go back to calling him washed up or whatever that commonly gets thrown around, and sometimes in jest, sometimes in seriousness. But you show up at the majors and you go second and first. Uh, that's some doing some work. Speaking of doing some work, I have to again shout out my friends over at Founders for their delicious backwoods bastard barrel aged. I want to get the exact wording for how they claim it. Something about aged in oak barrels. My lighting's not good, as you can tell. There's a green light. Who does that? Anyways, anyways isn't a word. Just gonna throw that out there for anyone that likes to use it. I use a lot of words incorrectly, in the wrong places, sometimes at the wrong times, or with the wrong connotations or meanings. Someone once told me from doing commentary how anyways is not a word, and I have tried to remove it from my vocabulary ever since. And so that'd be a fun, friendly reminder for all of you out there. Not that I don't say a lot of other dumb words or words that don't exist, but anyways is not a word. There you have it, folks. Can I really top that? Is there much else to say? Kyle Klein is clearly the next era. I think that's been proven now a number of times this year. Kyle Klein, 100% C1X putting today. Shoots a 10 under, second hottest round of the tournament. Does so on the final day when he needs to make the push. Doesn't do it with anything, too flashy. He's got 38 footer, pair of 27 footers. So he was making very easy work of his round out there today. I mean, just incredible. And to push into that playoff. Now, I'm going to share another quick story, actually, in talking with his dad after the tournament. I see Kyle in great spirits, signing discs, left-handed, which is weird because he throws a mile with his right hand, whatever. Who am I to judge? He said that him and his dad, who was here, said that him and Kyle were on the long drive home a couple years ago after Kyle had won USAM Nationals and then had earned his invite into this event. And Kyle had finished like 45th at this event. And they were on the way home, and his dad said to him, let me remind you, Kyle was like 16 at the time. And his dad said to him, 16 or 17, what'd you think? What are your thoughts about this? And Kyle had just finished in like 45th place. And Kyle said to him, I think I can win it. I know I can win that tournament. And that's what he said just like 2 years ago. And here he is taking into a playoff. Coming up short, yes, of course. But to me, there's so much to be said about that young man. And I've talked to his father a number of times. I've also talked to his mother a number of times. Like he is a kind, gentle soul that is literally just a teenager and working his way up through touring and life and everything else. And to see him come out and perform the way he has, I think his dad made the joke that like just a few years ago, the kid had never, been more than 100 miles away from his his home, and now he's on tour full time and has jumped himself up to the UDisc stats as sixth in the world and one of the best young bright stars we see in all of disc golf. And I'm just going to say I think that's incredible. So bright future for him, along with a number of our other young stars. You know, we think about Gannon Burr and how he was doing this weekend. Let me find where he ultimately finished, even though we've seen plenty of him, some solid performances from him. But Gannon Burr finished tied for 12th. Seriously? Like tied for 12th, the 16-year-old, and then Evan Scott, who we saw jump up. He had a little fall from grace, unfortunately. He did finish, he dropped 19 spots today to finish tied for 80th. But let me put that in perspective. Tying for 80th here doesn't mean you're a bad golfer at all. And I say that because I look at one stroke ahead of him is your 2013 USDGC champion, Steve Brinster, who was plus 10 on the weekend. Emerson Keith, you know, the guy that's won a ton of tournaments and then went on the road and then was right there vying for a world's title just a couple years ago. Emerson Keith, also plus 10. Connor O'Reilly, you know, the guy that just won his first national tour event back in Delaware a few weeks ago. He finished plus 11. So there is no hanging your head when you look at some of the scores and the results that can come from Winthrop, just knowing how difficult this course and this event can really be. Andrew Marweed, who we've talked a lot about this year, finished plus 2 and in 58th place. Kevin Jones in 51st, Barry Schultz in 51st, and so on and so forth. I mean, the entire field is stacked. Man, to play well at this tournament and to finish well up there at this tournament is nothing short of career-defining moments for you out there, because clearly it's a tough one to get. And there's a reason there's been now only 12 different winners in the 22 years that it's existed, or 23 years that this event has existed. There's only been 12 different winners, with 3 of them winning it 3 or more times. And of course, Will Schustrick winning it 3 times, Paul Macbeth now winning it 3 times, and Ken Climo winning it 5. That's an insane class of people and skills and talents. And I have to cheers them. So now that is over, I'm going to take a quick jump back over to largely focus on what I'm seeing coming in from the chat. Unfortunately, that means I may need to rewind significantly. I'm also getting a few updates that I would like to share. I want to double check that I have been seeing this. Some clarification has come in. Yes, that it seems to have been a Vimeo issue with regard to the broadcast. It is clear that many viewers saw the whole stream and some didn't. So, and I know that's probably tough for some of you here. I'm not here to, again, make any value statements, judgments. I also don't want to muddy any waters of any official communication that's going to be very elaborate and detailed. But that's exactly what we were notified of earlier, and that sounds like that's the clarification, is that there were we were told earlier that it seemed like it was the vast majority that saw it without complications in terms of the final few holes. And clearly others had problems. It was not a setting. It was not a button. It was not something on anything on our end that had any form of malfeasance. No, that had anything that was a malfunction on our behalf. And that's not to say I'm trying to pass the buck or we're trying to pass the buck, but just know somebody didn't walk out of the control room and then accidentally, kick a computer that then shut it off or anything silly like that. Okay. There were, it was interesting to see. I had some people messaging about how great the broadcast is, how they loved it, so on and so forth. And then shortly after the playoff is when I received a message or two about some people saying that they hadn't seen it. And that was the first I had heard anything about it. I also want to make something very clear. And I hope nobody cares that I share this, but I'm going to share it with you. Had we known of any issues whatsoever by any of the users prior to them throwing the playoff shots, it would have been halted and figured out. I think I hope I'm not stepping out of line by saying that. But that's how I feel. Had we known there were any issues, it would have been halted. And whether it would have been a quick fix and all that I still don't know, but it would have been halted. So if anyone thinks there was any intentionality, of course there was not. So I'd like to share that. And maybe that seems obvious to you. Maybe it doesn't. Some people acted as if, as if we knew or didn't care or anything silly like that. We did not, at least I did not. And I'm going to say that I can only, again, speak for myself on where I was and what I was doing. I was currently at that point running around with a cord looking for a camera to plug into because I didn't know who I'd be interviewing. But there was no knowledge at that point that we had a problem. So I just wanted to be very clear on that. I'm going to rewind. Looking back up is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to largely go back to the beginning of the chats and see if there's anything in particular that I'm going to quickly run through these. I'm not going to address every single one. Somebody accused me yesterday of censoring and or reading certain comments. Yeah, sometimes the most polite thing I can do, because this is my channel, is you say something really stupid or inaccurate or overly aggressive or overly anything. Sometimes rather than getting fired up and then addressing you, I just simply skip over it. Or sometimes I skip over it because I'm scrolling through hundreds of comments and I legitimately didn't see it or recognize it to answer. But I'm going to quickly peruse through them. Colorado had asked about the DGN thing. I think we're all kind of caught up on what I know and what I can say about that. Colorado says most of us fans are pissed. I don't think most is the correct the correct phrasing there. I would say I personally can understand if you were affected by it. I absolutely understand. Let me be very clear. In no way do I want to be dismissive whatsoever. I can absolutely understand that. It was probably a little disheartening or a lot disheartening that here we are into this crucial moment. I'm going to borrow a line from Johnny, fair or not. We've somewhat jokingly said for the last 7 years, no, we don't like playoffs because something might go wrong. Now, clearly, that's in jest, and we don't ever count on anything going wrong, or we don't plan for it or expect it to, is the best way to phrase that. But this is one of those situations where obviously something had gone haywire, astray, and it happened to be during one of the most crucial times. And I understand that. I'm just going to say I understand that. Well, Flip Flat, I think you probably know by now who won FPO. Sue says, why is everyone blowing past this as if it didn't happen? Same thing. I'm without beating a dead horse, to a degree, there's only so much that's known and or can be said at this moment. So, and that was way earlier, but that's what I can say. This DGN will learn from this and get better. Internet going out was something wasn't something they could account for, but what they'll do in the future is possible. This stuff happens in IT all the time. And I'm just going to say again, I understand the frustrations that, as they say, you could have watched 3,000 straight perfect hours of streaming video this year. Let's just say you did. And then the 10 minutes you really need it if some of you had a struggle. And I know that hurts. I sympathize. I understand. Absolutely. Colorado, I'm pretty close to all of your readings here that I need. You say this is crap. DGN is done. I am not a fan anymore. I hope you reconsider is what I can say to that. I understand your frustrations. But if not, I encourage you to vote with your dollars and if you want to watch other live broadcasts, you can by other people that put it on, or you can do what you need to do. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. That's for sure. Owen is incredible putter. It sucked. Someone says it sucked, but it wasn't as bad as y'all are making out to be. Again, I understand some of the disappointment that can be out there. And I know that DGN is working with, of course, the platform partner, Vimeo being the main platform partner, to figure out what any next steps will be. And of course, looking to find ways so that if there is a misfire of any kind in the future, that there's other ways to mitigate it or reduce it or do anything that we can on that in that capacity. The uniqueness of the tournament, you guys are going on about that, the whole tournament. Okay, so Colorado, you're mad, and I understand. I don't think I need to read any more of your sentiment to figure out where you're at. Gotcha. Jay thinks the tournament payouts are embarrassing. I don't know where you've been, Jay. Our payouts continue to increase literally every single. This is the largest payout that there's ever been at the USDGC. This is the largest payout. Throw Pink hasn't been around that long, but this is Missy Gannon's largest payout of her career at $6,000. Is it 100? Is it 200? Is it 3 million? No. But the payouts have gotten so much bigger just in the last 2 or 3 years. We're on the right path and then some. And even that, I mean, that's, in my opinion, still subjective. Who says how much any one tournament should be paying out? I mean, of course, we all want more. But says who? I mean, disc golf used to pay out, $28 to the winner. Or they'd play for a couple Frisbees. Or Elaine King, I think she said was it her first world she ever won? She won a basket, a portable basket. That was her payout for winning the world championships, essentially. We're getting there. Okay, again, I can read more, skip over more of some of those. Flip Flat says, I'm building a time machine. I like this. And to go back to 2001 to buy 100 CE rocks. If anyone wants a ride, let me know. Of course, CE rocks and all champion rocks that were tied to this event for decades to make it the fundraising and the unique collecting experience that it was. I think I touched on that a couple nights ago in one of these random rants of mine. I watched the replay. Chris says, yes, I believe everything is out there in a multitude of ways. I think the entire day, if it's not up, it will be, or maybe it is right now, but I know that that is available out there. Davey says it kind of seemed like Kyle came out of nowhere. He really didn't. Well, maybe this weekend, because he wasn't in that mix and that conversation for hunting down the title. He wasn't part of that conversation for a good portion of the weekend. I agree with you there. But today, when he came out and played the near flawless 11 under, it's like, and you saw him get onto the chase card yesterday. So he was just kind of quietly doing it. He's a quiet kid, but he was kind of quietly moving himself into position. And then today he went out and got loud, so to speak. I'm in the beginning to think Paul has a good disc golfer and not just lucky. That sounds like a really, really sound assumption there. Either that or he is literally the luckiest player ever to luck into 5 world titles, along with 11 other majors. I think he has 16 majors. Does anybody want to correct me on that? I think he's got 16 majors. Oh, you know who I can check with? I can check with my friends over at Statmando. They put up some incredible information, and sometimes I pass it off as my own, and sometimes I give them credit. So I'm going to click on them, and let's see what they had to say. They had a few things that they had posted out there. Paul McBeth's win at the USDGC was his first playoff win since 2015 at the Beaver State Fling. What? So not so clutch in the last 6 years. This is McBeth's first career playoff win east of Oklahoma, which is very random, but very interesting. First career playoff win east of Oklahoma. Okay, I'll go with that. Before today, McBeth had lost his previous 7 playoff appearances. Statmando, you're blowing my mind. That's crazy. All right, let's read some more stuff. All credit to Statmando. Paul's prize money total jumps to $555,450, and his total throws in his career moves to $68.06. 68. His total throws in his career moves to 68,064. Okay, so he's thrown 68,064 shots. Wow. Well, a few less than that, then you add penalties, whatever. Earning him $8.17 per throw in his career. His first cash came in 8/26/2007, 5,158 days ago. He's earned $107.69 per day in prize money since that day. That's all silly. And it looks like he cashed almost exactly 1 month after he lost the playoff at the AM Worlds that I had run back in 2007. So good thing he recovered from that. Yeah, just so much amazing stuff to read out here. Here is something that Statmando did share yesterday. And then I kind of alluded to, they had said yesterday that Paige Pierce shot 10.27 rated round 1, 846 rated round 3, 181 difference in round ratings. This is the largest rating difference in one event in Paige's career. Her previous largest difference was in 133 in 2010 at the Brent Hambrick. So also they had said that her unofficial 846 in round 3, that was their lowest rated round since 2010. So, and funny thing, I don't think any of the ratings from this weekend count for anybody. So I guess there's something to be said about that. On the major side, on the USDGC, it is an X, considered an X tier major. And then on the throw pink side, it's an AX event, meaning that they won't count there either. So maybe it all doesn't mean anything other than a quick reference point when you're looking at those. Let's continue to scroll down. Quick side note, I should have opened with this. Happy birthday, Haley King. Next year, you can enjoy a Founders beverage. I believe she turned 20 today. So happy birthday to Haley King. And they very graciously sung happy birthday to her on hole 17 when she, after she had thrown her tee shot and sort of walking through. Worst hole of the day, Emerson took a 14 on hole 12. Must have been painful to watch. I agree, it probably was. So much OB out there, and that one's tough to do. The Beetle Juice, why don't they do a playoffs on the par 5s so it doesn't come down to a single shot? Feels like they should do a CTP at that point. No, not at all. Totally disagree. First of all, par 5s are on the other side of the course. So, like literally on the other side of the course. So to get hundreds or thousands of fans, and then to get them, well, I guess, no, sorry, I stand corrected right away. Hole 5 is a par 5. But to get all the fans over there, what if the very first par 5 was on hole 10 and it was on the other side of the course? Like, that's just not practical. And I mean, birdies are birdies. Eagle, I mean, a playoff can be won with an eagle or a birdie or a double bogey. I mean, I don't really, excuse me. I know I understand kind of what you're saying, but we've also seen a 10-hole playoff at this very course. And that includes a very difficult par 3 with the hay bales on 17, hole 1, which feels like a must-get birdie, and hole 18, which has only gotten tougher throughout the years, and a very challenging par 4 that feels incredible to get a 3 on, and a 4 is usually even a good score. Evan, we're going to go with okay. Super Chatter came in. Says, saw you running all over Winthrop Gold today. Great tournament, wasn't it? Paul's round really turned around with that clutch putt on 15, eh? Wow. Thank you for the super chat, first and foremost. Even Gleon, I'm not sure what your login is supposed to mean, or if I'm reading it correctly, but thank you so much. Putt on 15. Yeah, I mean, you think about various momentum swings out there on any given place, and then you think, man, I mean, think how much more pressure is put on 18 if he doesn't get the birdie on 17. I mean, that as well. 15 when he was out of position, but then still gets up and down and then saves it with that, clutch putt, as you say. I feel like there's a lot of those types of situations out there. And hole 18, he's right there to win it outright, and just glances off the chains. Clearly a circle 2 putt that could have ended things, and Kyle Klein just the same could have ended things. So pretty incredible for sure. So I appreciate it. And yeah, I wasn't running all over Winthrop today, but I was running around trying to figure out, is this thing going to end on 18? Are we going to move to 1? We had to talk to, of course, Missy, who was looking to take it down. It was pretty awesome. So thank you so much. Sorry, I'm going to continue to scroll up a little bit, continue answering your questions if you've got them, and or address some of your statements here. I'm scrolling ahead. I may skip some. How about the internet in Milwaukee? Yeah, by what was reported back to me, there was a portion of the city within Milwaukee had an outright internet outage. We have a major provider. Obviously, there's some continued redundancies that we're going to continue to look into, but that's what was reported, at least back to me. And I know it sounds also weird to some people. I understand how initially it sounds weird to say, well, we're playing disc golf in South Carolina, we're filming disc golf in South Carolina. Who cares about internet in Milwaukee? Well, our signal gets sent to the control center that's back in Milwaukee. And yes, we had a commentator booth here this weekend, which isn't necessarily the case. For instance, next weekend, I'll be commentating out of Bend, Oregon, and we'll still have a control room in Milwaukee while the play is happening in Charlotte. So I can understand being a little confused at first, but that's how the system currently is set up. Nick says those 10 mil Paul got will likely keep the McBeast caged in every tournament that isn't a major going forward. I'm going to say this. I would never make a generic statement. That sounds pretty. He's not going to win every tournament if he's getting paid $100 million a year or $100 a year. He's not winning every tournament anymore. It's just, I don't think possible with the level of play that we have in disc golf. Now, if somebody wants to claim that he's comfortable or he's resting on his money or he's signed his big contract, I just don't think you know Paul well, in the sense that clearly motivation comes from a lot of different factors, and you had to be self-motivated and find things to motivate you that weren't money for all these years, because he wasn't in disc golf for money. And I think you could say that of all of our players. You're not in disc golf because you're like, oh, here's a good way to get rich. So I don't subscribe to that. I know a lot of other people might claim that and think that's the case. Personally, I don't think that, and I don't think that of any of our players. I don't think Eagle or Simon or anyone that has or Ricky that signs a contract then immediately is like, well, time to take the foot off the gas because I don't really care. I'm not a competitive player. I got mine. I don't think any of them are thinking that. I just think the reality is that it's become more challenging for anyone to dominate, and we grew accustomed to Paul being one of those dominant players. And here we are talking like as if it was yesteryear. I mean, he's still competitive. He just doesn't dominate like he used to. And as he will say, he's set a very high bar for himself. So as soon as he doesn't win, all of us are like, well, what's wrong with him? And money got to his head. Let's blame Hannah. Well, maybe I'd do that anyway for fun, but no. Oh, sorry, Hannah, if you're watching. Ugh. Largest crowd at a disc golf tournament? I don't think so. It was sizable. It was great. I do not know the numbers. I heard a lot of people throwing out numbers. I don't think I heard numbers that would align with my guesses. I'm just going to guess from the limited places that I was today. I'm going to guess there were a few thousand, a few being somewhere between 2 and 4,000. That's just a guess. And whether there was, 992 or there was 3,992 clearly is not a direct reflection on like the tournament or the success or anything of that nature. There's some tournaments that are easier to view and to spectate than others. And there's different reasons why I think we see different on-site viewership at events. So if I had to guess, there was as little as 2,000 and as many as 4,000 there today. That's just a guess. You guys were talking about Paul's caddy, Stephen or Stephen Curry. Is a collegiate disc golfer at a school about 10 miles from where Paul lives. Foundation disc golf guys played there a lot in college, and they hang out with them. Terry, when do you think we'll see Climo be overthrown for total USDGC wins? That's not. Oh, sorry. I was thinking of his 12 world titles, which I don't think is going to get superseded. His 5 titles. I mean, clearly there's one front runner in that conversation. I don't see with where Schustrick's priorities and his career are right now that he's going to necessarily be running at, a 4th and a 5th title. Maybe that could change in the future. He's still very young, but he's got 3 and Macbeth has 3 and Climo's got 5. Yeah. I mean, I think Macbeth clearly has, the next most logical path to that. Barry Schultz has 2. Barry, I think, could win literally any year in the next 5 to 10 years still. He's not picking up 3 or 4 more to eclipse Climo. Paul, just with time on his side, I think has a better chance to do that. Susie says, you're good at what you do. I wonder, though, as disc golf becomes more and more professional, is drinking alcohol while broadcasting really a good idea? I appreciate that, Susie. As I said early, first of all, I'm not much of a beverage drinker. Second of all, I'm not broadcasting disc golf. I'm not on behalf of anyone. I hope as long as I don't get sloppy and rude and obnoxious, that this would be no different than you and I and a few dozen people sitting around at, I was going to say Applebee's, sitting around at any given bar or restaurant. That's how I kind of view these. That's why I think even on my YouTube page, I have them listed as recaps, but also like DG Guy Hangouts, because I kind of feel like this very specific setting that we're in right now with you wherever you are and me here, I feel like this is us just having a conversation where people are asking and saying things. I'm replying just as if we were enjoying a post game, beverage or meal at BW3s or insert whatever place you actually like. It's a fair question. If I were doing a Disc Golf Network show, if I were doing something that was being presented or given to ESPN, I totally agree with you. And for that reason, these are very also relatively unique situations. And this is not like a shtick or a regular format for me by any means. I just happen to find these beverages in this state, and it's that time of year. Although I do think your questioning is absolutely valid, and you may or may not love that response. Max says, still love you, Terry. Like I told you today on 3 Love, the podcast and coverage, you are the OG disc golf media. I appreciate that, Max. I've been coming here for a long time, and I'm super honored and privileged to do everything that I can within disc golf media. Whoever disliked this video, I hope your disc melt in the sun. No surprise. I mean, there's been actually a large number of dislikes, larger than normal. I feel like for this week, and I think a lot of people probably come here thinking I'm showing you highlights or I'm giving you actual footage. Maybe you thought I was interviewing someone, which isn't that crazy, but yeah. And then some people are just really mad as well. Whether it was what was being offered or how their day went or whatever. I think there's a lot of frustration out there, and sadly enough, I just have to roll with the dislikes. What YouTube has the coverage? I don't think I think there was someone posted a playoff that was shot by their cell phone. That's out there and available on somebody's YouTube channel, not an official, recognized disc golf channel, so to speak. But then Disc Golf Network, anyone that paid for any of the Disc Golf Network stuff, or correction, for the past stuff, if you go out there and within the products, there's over 60 videos that have been uploaded already or are ready from this week. And so again, going back to it, I understand some people say, hey, I didn't like that I paid $20 or $25 or $100, and I feel like I should get all my money back. I couldn't see 3 holes. Again, understand your frustrations, but if you look at it in another way, you could also say, hey, holy cow, there's 60 plus videos that have been posted, that we've been able to consume, that the work has been done. That's just another way to look at it. I know you can agree or disagree with that, and I understand your frustrations, but a lot of work has been put in by dozens and dozens of people this week, and a lot of work that I feel like very proud of. I think once it gets over 4 hours, Vimeo, it may exceed some limits, but worked plenty of other times. So who knows? Not me. I've kind of addressed all that with regard, there's transcoding that takes place on Vimeo. There's a lot of other things that are largely outside of anyone's, I don't want to say jurisdiction, largely outside of anyone's control. Here's a great example. If you had a 4-hour video, I'm just going to use this as an example. Take a 4-hour video of waves crashing into the beach. Take that 4-hour video, upload that to your YouTube channel at home yourself, get that entirely uploaded, and the second it says 100% uploaded on YouTube does not mean that it is 100% viewable on YouTube. YouTube, like Vimeo, and I'm only using this as an example because I use YouTube and I upload hundreds of videos. YouTube has to then transcode it and do some stuff to then make it available. That is a similar system that you find by Vimeo, and that happens all throughout the year. So sometimes when people say, hey, the Idlewild round 1 front 9 just got done, where is that? Can I go watch that? It may, or the entire round just got done. You may not be able to see that because a 4 or 6 hour broadcast, whatever it might be, just completed, And so sometimes it takes a lengthy amount of time to transcode over on Vimeo's end. And we've looked into it. There's nothing else you can do about it. I mean, those are ones and zeros and digital things. So I don't know how I've got off on this tangent, but just so you know that that's an industry like generic situation of transcoding and or encoding and being ready to go on a platform. So even though if it could be done and there and ready to go from the creator's perspective, it may not be viewable instantaneously. It never will be viewable instantaneously when it's a large file. Now you take a 4-minute video of the craziest stuff in the world and you put it on YouTube, in probably about 5 minutes, it will be transcoded and ready to be viewed. But when it's a lengthy video, that's not necessarily the case. So, and I know they're looking to do everything they can on the Disc Golf Network with regard to whatever videos are being made available. Seems like some saw it on the way through and many had issues. Again, I don't have those numbers. I don't know if those numbers get provided or A, get released, or B, maybe more importantly, I don't know if those are even entirely provided. I don't know who would provide those. I don't know if that's a platform thing. I'm not sure. Again, I'm going to say that's above my pay grade, that I don't know how that will work itself out. But I do know if you log into the network right now, Disc Golf Network, and you go into the fan stuff, there is some direct correspondence and interaction that you can follow. I don't want to muddy the waters and say what it is or isn't, because I'm not sure what the wording was. But please, if you have it, go out and look, and hopefully all of your answers are right there. Mike says, I lost coverage right after Paul's putt on 18, came back as he was walking to the clubhouse. I was driving, though, so I thought it was my connection. The extra pay-per-view cost is what made it unacceptable. I think I've talked about that. It wasn't only this broadcast, it's every broadcast that's subpar. I'm sorry you feel that way, Phase 4 Radio. The camera angles and pans were sick in a good way. DGN posted the last 3 holes in the playoff. Lots more of that kind of chatter. Will the USDGC be available on post-production on Jomez in the future? If you mean from 2021, as in sometime in the future of the 2021's footage on Jomez, no. Jomez was not involved with any of the production of this weekend. Will it in future years? Absolutely, positively cannot state that with any certainty one way or another. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. I cannot say that. That is, again, way above my pay grade. Haven't watched much disc golf lately, but I always enjoy your views. Well, thank you, Rocket League. I appreciate that. Somebody else answered that post-production will be up in 30 days, not Jomez. Time goes faster when you think. You'll be viewing it in no time. I'll say this. If you order one of the passes, post-production from every day is available now. So you can watch round 1 post-production, round 2 post-production, I think round 3 is up post-production. Yeah, I know it is. And then I think tomorrow the plan is to have post-production from today up as well. So just to clarify, just like I saw a lot of people say, there's no way for me to watch, this week. That would be an incorrect statement. There is ways. It was just a matter of the pay-per-view way. Disappointed I didn't get to see the last 3 holes in the playoff, but happy you got to see Missy take this down. I hear you. Again, some of these are very similar from one to another. Are you afraid to answer the question? Adam asked. I don't know if you're asking me that. Hand of God, don't be afraid. Just answer. Let me scroll up, Adam, and see if you were addressing me. I don't know. There's a few times you chimed in. Do you get your money back when the cable is out for a few hours? You say no. John's still mad. Hand of God. Taste for UFC. I'm not following all of where you're going with it, and maybe you're not even directly addressing me, and that's okay too. Disc golf isn't on a regular TV channel. What are you talking? Okay, you guys are having your own side conversation, which is fine. I mean, do we think about already? I mean, yes, today's over. It's a little after midnight. I have to let you go in the next few minutes anyway because my internet resets here in the in the hotel at 12:21 Eastern. So in 19 minutes it's going to reset and kick me off my stream. We learned that the first night and then I made up for it the next couple nights. So start thinking ahead real quickly. I'll leave you guys with some of these thoughts. Next week, insane tournament, insane payout, all of that stuff back on DGN. Regular subscription stuff applies. Looking for the Pro Tour Championships to take place out there in Charlotte. $30,000 for first. Both the MPO and the FPO side. That's all, of course, thanks to guaranteed rate. I think it was at 15,000, 15 or 20,000 for second. It's insane. Whatever the numbers are, I've already forgotten because I repeated them a couple of weeks ago so much. Just absolutely crazy what we're going to see. We know a lot of players. I mean, even when Paul and others are done today, the first thing they say is, yeah, we got one more big tournament, and that's next weekend, just 20 minutes north of where we are right now in Charlotte. Super excited for it. The only thing I'm not personally excited for is instead of having late nights, I'm up at 5 a.m. because I'll be on the West Coast commentating with Nate Sexton, Nate Doss, and Valerie Jenkins. So we'll be giving you 2 separate streams. There's going to be, just like this week, we're going to have the women will be in the morning, I believe, every day. And then in the, well, I guess for some of you, the afternoon is when we're going to see the MPO side at the Pro Tour Championship. So super excited for all of that to happen. What do you got as a favorite for next week? I mean, does Paul have momentum now? Is he going to have a little vengeance coming back from last year? Chris Dickerson, Kevin Jones, Calvin Heimberg all have to be in the mix. Calvin, who wasn't much of a factor this weekend. I mean, those are all some obvious potentials. Different format. So does Paul Ulibarri jump in there and get wild? Nico LaCastro finish strong today. I mean, that's impossible. Will we see the return of normal Cat and Paige, like the dominant just killers they usually can be out there? One of the two. Haley King, of course, took it down last year. So we know she took 4 out of 5 NTs this year. And then Sarah Hokum, who has just nonstop been right there in the thick of things near the end of every tournament, but format's different. So maybe she's got to turn it up a notch or two a little earlier. I mean, there's so many unknowns. It's impossible to truly pick a winner anymore outside of just some sheer luck. Like, oh, I picked Klein. Yeah, I think he's going to take it all the way. And then when he does, you can't be surprised, but you also could be like, well, or like 19 other people could have taken it. So really looking forward to it. Should be a lot of fun for sure. Any idea when the registration will open for cold turkey? That's a fair question, Paul. Damn it. I should get it done tomorrow. I've talked about it all week. I thought I was going to get it done, but it will be out very, very soon. And I'm talking about the C tier in the southeastern Wisconsin area. I run a C tier right after Thanksgiving. This will be the 16th year for this one. And looking forward to it. It'll be 2 split days. So we'll be able to accommodate 72 on Saturday and 72 on Sunday. Huge player pack, all that other good stuff. Look for that. Makers Telemark says, #boring. Man, I hope you've been here for the hour and a half to say that. For the 2 hours to say that. Yeah, Joe Mez will cover next weekend. Joe Mez will be involved next weekend, I believe. Yeah, I actually, you know what? I should triple check that. I'm under that assumption, but I guess I've been wrong. I was wrong one other time in life. So, but I believe that they're involved next weekend for their post-production action. Where's Cold Turkey at? That is in the Gray Fox course in southeastern Wisconsin, right near the Illinois-Wisconsin border, at a course that I helped design over at the Gray Fox disc golf course. Paul says, I'm going to play. Not if I kick you out. Silver Fox is also just down the road from there. Guys, ladies, gentlemen, boys and girls, adults, non-adults, adults not acting as adults, and younger folk acting very mature. I got to say thank you. This has been a heck of a week. I enjoy doing these. I feel like some of you enjoy it. If you do, let me know. Put it in the comments. Um, yeah, if this is something you'd like to see more often, is this something you'd like to see that aren't just at our majors? Maybe there's some more media that can get worked into it to give you even more pizzazz than the UDisc review that I often do. I of course enjoy answering your questions and giving you guys some insights where I have them uh, directly. I love the direct open line between us here on the YouTube chat. Um, it's been a heck of a week, though. I head back to Wisconsin tomorrow, and then in a few days after that, I'll head to Bend. Maybe these could be applicable each night while I'm in Bend, depending on the internets. There's a lot that goes into it, but you guys have been incredible, and I just can't say it enough. Thank you so much. Thank you to all the people. I saw a ton of people on the course today. In fact, a few people that said, "Hey, I've been watching it every night, and I got here today." To each and every one of you, whether you're here in person or you just tuned in on my random nightly ramblings, uh, I really, really do appreciate it. So I'm going to sign us off and give it an end. It looks like you guys have all been super sweet and wow, so incredibly supportive over there. Yeah, the internet's going to cut out on me anyway. It's going to ask me to refresh my account for for my stay here at the hotel. So I'm gonna beat it to it. I think I'm gonna have to click on this button. I can take that down. Man, if I get really fancy, you guys might get a whole bunch of graphics. You guys might get so maybe we could work in some actual clips and some other things. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of places this could maybe go um, on any given week or weekend. But hopefully, you guys will join us for our Tuesday night podcast on Smashbox TV. That will continue to keep going. Excuse me. We'll reach out to both Paul and Missy, and maybe we can get one or both of them to join us there on Tuesday night, and then we'll be back at it for the rest of the week. I'm going to sign things off for the 100th time. I'm going to tell you guys I appreciate you because I really do. Thanks for joining me all of these nights or some of these nights. Thanks for super chatting. A few of you went over and jumped on and signed up to support my Patreon account. Yeah, it's I'm super blessed to be doing this for you guys and to be here providing a little extra bonus insight where I can. That's the 2021 Throw Pink Women's Championships and the United States Disc Golf Championships. I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and I'm going to close things out. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you in a few days. Founders, if you're listening still, backwoods bastard, I'll give you my address.